All right, what we're going to do right now then is we're going to continue on with these payroll program examples. If you weren't here, and I don't know if there's anybody in the room now that wasn't here Monday, if you weren't here Monday, the program that we created as a class is right there, okay? You don't need to go there unless you don't have that program. If you have that if you don't have that program, you might want to go there, bring that up in Notepad++, and just copy it to the clipboard. Otherwise, you're going to have to key all the stuff in again. All right? So last time what we did was we created this program. All right. Thank you. So this is the Payroll 01 that we created, and then we copied it over to 02A and 02B. All right, and just in case you weren't here the other day, I'll go through the steps one more time for how to create the project in Eclipse. You've got to get into the virtual desktop, remember, find the Eclipse icon, and that Eclipse icon should be either, if you click start, it should be up there, and that should start up Eclipse. All right, so this is what we did last time. So just to bring it into focus from what we just went over in the book, when we created the project in Eclipse, we had to create a package. When we created that package, that put that statement at the beginning of our code. When we created this, we called the class that we created Payroll. That created this, and the curly down here. We said we wanted it to contain a main. So that just gave us these two lines here and that one line there, from which we added all of that code on Monday. So now you know, again, we are both declaring and initializing 2 strings and 3 doubles. We put some comments over there, single line comments, and then we simply said, take whatever is in hours, which is 40.0, multiply it by rate, which is 10.0, so 40 times 10 is 400, and assign that to gross. Then we printed all of them out. And since we have a print line in there, we got the new line after each thing that we printed. All right, that's just a review, but that should make sense. And we added the \ends, or I added them to say end of program. So again, with this example, every time we run the program, since we've hard-coded the values in here, 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 and here, every time we run this program, it's going to look like that every single time. Well, that's not the way that you want to run programs. You want to allow some interaction with the user. So what we did was we took that program. Eclipse can get confused easily, in my opinion. All right? So if you've got this up, you might say, well, I'll just close it. I'll click that. But the project is still open. I would recommend that if we're going to go now from Payroll 01 to Payroll 02A. So I would recommend with that project highlighted there, you click File, and you choose, all right, I think you may have to right mouse click on it. Close project. Now it's closed. All right? And the reason I say that is sometimes you end up copying stuff back and forth between different programs that are in different projects, etc. And if you leave everything in the world open, it can cause some confusion. All right? So what we're going to do is open up Payroll 02A. Is there anybody who's in here that wasn't here Monday? All right. Just remember, if you weren't, just so you see this real quickly, I'll just create a bogus project. You do a file, new, Java project. You give it a name here. Hello. In fact, how about this? Dump this. All right. And you click finish. That creates the project. Then you right mouse click on the source file. You do a new, you do a package, and you put that into reverse domain notation. So for me, it's edu.blackhawk.jscott, and you click finish. That goes in and it makes your package. Then you right mouse click on the package and you choose new, and you go down to class. And if I want to call this dump, all right, I can go ahead and say I want the main put in there, and boom. Now that's everything. That's basically what we did. I don't want this anymore, so again, I'm going to right mouse click on the name of the folder and choose, in this case, I'm going to tell it to delete. And it's kind of important that I show you this because if you look, it allows you to delete it in two ways. If I just click OK right now, it keeps it in there, but it deletes it from my project folder. I don't want it anymore, period, so I'm going to click the checkbox. And now it's gone, period. All right? All right, so now I've got my program 2A open, and hopefully you do too. All right? So what we want to do in this example is in between where we're calculating our gross and where we print the stuff out. So in here, we want to add some more code. Well, the first thing I want to do is I don't want to hard code in anything. So for the name, it's going to now be this. The hours are going to be this. And the rate is going to be like that. So notice the first thing that we did here. We went back, we're still initializing, but we're initializing the first name to the empty string, the last name to the empty string, hours and rate to 0, and gross, I could go back and change that one too. All of these to 0.0. All right? Why? Because when we run this, we're going to ask the user to put in that information. All right? So that's how mine looks right now. So that's all we've done is we've changed these lines. So now if I were to do a file, save all, and run it, it's going to look a lot different because there's no values coded in there. So first name is blank, last name is blank, hours worked, hourly rate, and gross pay are all 0. Well, we're going to change that right now. So I take for granted that everybody was able to do that. All right? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create yet another variable, just like they did in the book. I'm going to say scanner keyboard equals new scanner system.in, and it's going to generate a bunch of errors, which is fine. If you get the red underlines like I've gotten, that's okay. We're going to let the system fix it for us right away. All right? If you look at the top of the program, what's going to happen is we're going to tell the system to add this import. It's going to appear right there. So it'll be right between the package. The package statement has to be at the top of the program. After the package statement, you put in your import statements. What the import does is it goes out and it brings in from that API that I showed you, it brings in the necessary library files, and it makes them available to your program. All right? So I take my mouse and I hover it over either one of these where it says scanner, and it says, oh, scanner cannot be resolved to a type. What do you want to do? And it gives me 7 different options. I want to choose the first one that says import scanner java.util. So I highlight that one in here, I click it, and boom. Now it put that in for me. See that? Now if you say, well, that seemed like too much work, you can type it in manually too. It's not going to hurt anything at all to type it in manually. All right? You'll notice if you look at line 15, that's still in yellow. If I hover over the error that's right there, it's not an error, it's a warning. And it says, in fact, I spelled keyboard wrong, didn't I? If I do hover over it, though, it's basically telling me you've got this variable here that you're not using to do anything. So if I were to choose remove, it's going to remove the line, so I'd have to type it in again. I don't want to do that. All right? But anytime that you've got variables that you've created that you're not using in the program, Eclipse is going to let you know that. So that error, that yellow that's here and it's over here, that'll go away once we start adding some stuff. All right. So I want to ask the user 4 questions. What is your first name? What is your last name? How many hours did you work? What is your hourly rate? Does that make sense? That's what I want to ask the user. So system.out.print. What is your first name? And if you remember, I'm using system.out.print, not print line. All right. And then I'm going to come in here and say this. First name equals keyboard dot next line. I'm going to cheat and ask. I just copied that down so I can say, what is your last name? All right. So I'm creating the keyboard object here. And now it's going to come out on the screen, what is your first name? And I can click in there and add my first name. Then it'll ask me, what is my last name? And I can click in there and add my last name. This is good. See where I've got an error right here? I've got an error because I'm trying to use keyboard.nextLine, and I'm trying to use that on a variable that's a double. So I've got to say next double here. And the error goes away. So that's what we've added. All the stuff that you see right there in blue. All right, we went in and we manually changed these values that are here, and then we added this. Now, just to show you this, two things. First of all, do you notice how the yellow, the word keyboard on line 15 is still in yellow? You say, wait a minute, Jeff, you told us that would disappear when we put stuff in. Bless you. Keyboard is kind of a weird thing, bless you, in Java. All right, and what the keyboard does is it opens up your program for what are called memory leaks. So when you open a keyboard, which is what you're doing here, you should close it down at the bottom. So at the bottom of my program, after I've done everything else, I'm going to say keyboard dot close, just like that. All right, I put that at the very bottom. And you'll notice if you look up here, now there's no yellow in there. All right. I'm going to do a file, save all, and now I'm going to run this. So I'm going to do a run. I come down to the bottom here. Notice what it says. What is your first name? And now it's stopped. So, Jeff, and it's in green. What is your last name? Sometimes you have to manually move the mouse over. Scott, how many hours did you work? 50. What is your hourly rate? 5. Now it gives me all the stuff. See the difference? Now if I run it again, I can put in John, Wanda, work 40 hours. John makes $100 an hour. All right, and I can put that in there. But the idea is every time now that I run this program, I can conceivably put in different inputs. All right. Now you'll notice that where it says first name and all that stuff, now I might want to come back to this and add 2 or 3 \n's just so it looks a little bit nicer. You don't have to do that. The program works just fine without it. But now when I come in here, what is your first name? John. What is your last name? Wanda. How many hours did you work? 40. What's your hourly rate? $100. All right, now it's pushed down a little bit. So one more time, what we added here, we came back here and we changed all 5 of these lines. We had hard-coded values in before. Actually, we didn't change that one, that was 0. But we changed that from Jeff to the empty string, Scott to the empty string, 40.0 to 0.0, 10.0 to 0.0, we left that one as it was. So in other words, we got rid of all the default values that we had in there previously, so that when we run the program multiple times, we can put in different inputs every time. All right, so we did that. Then we added a new variable right here. which was that scanner variable. All right. And you'll notice, again, you get the help. So if you want to know more about system is what's highlighted, but if I go over to scanner, it'll give me information about it. That's actually from the Java help. All right. So I'm saying system.in is going to be done from the keyboard. So it comes out, prints on the screen. What is your first name? And the mouse sits there. And whatever I put in, since it's a string, since first name and last name are strings, we use what's called next line. That was in the book. I kind of glossed over it quickly, but that was in the book. All right. Then, after first name and last name, we said, how many hours did you work and what's your hourly rate? Those are both doubles. So instead of next line, we use next double. Then we do the same calculation we did previously. All right. But again, now when we run the program, we'll get different results every time because we can put in different inputs, so we can get different outputs. And then at the bottom, we close the keyboard. And I hope you enjoy that, because that's the last time I'm going to mention the keyboard the whole semester, and I'm never going to use it again. Yep. But if you like it and you want to use that, you can. All right. To me, it's just more work than what we're about to do, which is to create an input dialog and then have a message dialog for our output. Yes?
That was, you just answered my question.
Okay. Anybody who needs that up there or didn't get any part of it or whatever? Because I'm just going to go on and do the other one. So I'm going to close this one and close this project and bring up Payroll 02B. Okay? All right. Again, with it highlighted here, I'm going to right mouse click on it and choose Close Project. You can see how it changes. This one I actually kept open last time. I shouldn't have done that. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to open up 2B. Right now, again, it's still got all that hard-coded stuff. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of all that, just like we just did. All right. So now it pretty much, that's the same start we had before. But we're not going to be using in here this keyboard, so we don't have to put that in. All right. But I am going to add a new variable, because when we run the program, now it's going to come out and it's going to say, what is your first name? Question mark. And there'll be a box here for me to enter the first name. Then there'll be an OK button here, and there'll be a cancel button here. All right. Then it'll ask for the last name. Then it'll ask for how many hours I worked. Then my rate. The point is, whatever I put in there is a string. Even if I put numbers in there to the system, it's a string. So for those numeric values, for these two things, when we enter them, we're going to have to convert those from strings to doubles. And that's where we're going to use something that's called the wrapper class, and we're going to do a double.parseDouble. It's not that different from the parsing that you did last semester in the JavaScript class. All right, the ideas are the same. All right, the problem is in JavaScript, if you go in and you ask, if it says how much, what's your hourly rate, and you put none of your damn business in there. If you do that in JavaScript, it'll take hourly rate and it'll set it to NAN, not a number. You do it here, the program throws an exception and it aborts right away. All right, you get some kind of an arithmetic exception. I'm going to show you that on purpose, so you can start to see, you get what's called a stack backtrace, so you can see exactly what happens when you do that. All right, so again, right up here, we're going to start putting in our information. So I'm going to say, first we got to put in that other variable. So it's going to be a string, and I'm just going to call it input str, input string. All right, and again, I'm going to have it equal to that, and I'll put a message here, a comment that says temporary input string. Okay? All right. See this on the screen? There is Intellisense in here. It's not as nice of Intellisense as you get in Visual Studio, but it's Intellisense. And it says, oh, you probably want to do a show input dialog. So I could take my mouse, put it on here, and double click, and it'll fill it in for me. Or you can manually key it in. Either way, it doesn't really matter. No. The question was, do I have to leave a space here? No, because that's going to say right now, I only had it say first name because didn't want to run out of room. So right here, this is just going to say here. First name, and as soon as we put that in, it's going to put that box in there for us. It's already going to basically do the equivalent of a print line. All right. And notice I put two of them in because, well, I got the first one, so I might as well put in the last name also. All right. And I didn't have to use this input str because I'm already working with strings. What I've added so far in here were strings. Now, I just want to show you this. You don't have to do what I'm about to show you, but take a look, please. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run it again. Well, actually, if I try to run it, I'm probably going to... Oh, the system put that line in for me. I didn't even get a chance to. All right. So I've saved it, and I run it again. Now, notice the difference. First name, Jeff. Last name, Scott. It's still going to print some stuff down here because I still have those things printing. Notice it did put in Jeff, and it did put in Scott. But I have to add the rest of it now. And this is a little bit more difficult because what I'm going to add, I'm going to say hours and I'm going to say rate. Those are doubles. So when I put them in here initially, they won't be put in as doubles. They'll be put in as a string. So what I'm going to say here is this. Input str equals hours. Then I have to convert that. So I'll say hours equals double dot parse double input string. And what doesn't it like? Misplay. Oh. There we go. And that's a big S. There we go. And then I'm going to use it to say rate, and that's going to be rate. All right. Now, I'll come right back to it, but just let me run it again, okay? So now I run it. Now notice all my inputs, first name, last name, hours, rate, boom. All the stuff is in here. And it's all printing at the bottom, and it's all correct. All right? So I've got all my inputs. They're all being handled right now. But notice again, if I run this, and I do a run, it says first name, Jeff. Last name, Scott. Hours, 40. Rate, none of your business. All right? Red usually means bad. If you've never seen that before, this is a stack backtrace. So it says main tried to call this, that tried to call this, that tried to call this, and it found an error. All right? And if you're like most people, you're going to look at it and go, oh, okay, I see errors in there. Must be the stuff that Java wrote. No, it isn't. It's the stuff that you wrote. All right? But it's trying to let you know that you had an error. So what happened? I had a number format exception because it says the input string none of your business was not numeric. All right? When we get to about chapter 11, you'll learn how to fix that. You say, well, geez, what do we do till chapter 11? It's okay if your program breaks when you do stuff like that. All right? So we've got all of our inputs. We're figuring out our gross right there. So now let's also add our outputs. And it doesn't matter here if we add this above this or below what's in blue here. So I'm just going to add it above. And I'm going to put it over several lines just so it doesn't flow off the screen. Again, remember, we say null first. All right? Yeah, I'm going to put this on multiple lines, so I want to make sure that it doesn't float off the screen. So. I'll fix this in a minute, so even though it looks really ugly, it'll all be fixed in a minute or so. All right. Thank you. So one more time, what I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to run it one more time. Then I'll bring this right back, but just so you see it. So now it asks me, Jeff, Scott, 40, 20. There's my output. All right? That's a message dialog box right there. The other ones I showed you were input dialogs. So I'll move this up so you can see the beginning stuff, and then I'll move it back down again in a couple minutes. Yes.
Do you have a bracket at the end of your gross?
Here? Yes.
Yeah. Where's the front of it?
That's right here.
Oh, okay.
So again, we came in, we made sure that we had default values instead of hard-coded values in for all of our variables. All right? Then we went and we set the first name and the last name, and since both of those already were strings, we didn't need to use that temporary variable. We didn't have to do any parsing. But for the other two, for hours and for rate, we were reading numbers into strings. All right, but we wanted to use them as though they were numbers. So this converted what we put in the box for hours to a double. This converted what we put in the box for rate to a double. Then we did our math that we did before. Then we printed it all out. Remember that word null there means print it right in the middle of the screen. Again, enough to throw at you, and what we will get to, just so you know, very shortly, is I'll show you two different ways. So if you say, well, I don't like the way that worked, why did it say 400.0? I want there to be a dollar sign. I want there to be commas. I want 2 decimal places. We'll do that in the next chapter. Yes?
What would it do if you didn't put null in there, but you didn't have anything else?
If we didn't put anything in there, you'd get an error message. It expects something to be in there. The other thing that you put in there, just so you know, is sometimes you create stuff in what's called a frame. So you name your frame, and instead of putting null, you might put the frame in there. All right. Now, again, like I said, enough to throw at you, but conceptually, is there anything in there that doesn't make sense to people? Because this is your time to ask. All right, I'm hoping everybody has this, so I'm going to move up to right here. So you can see that's the other thing we added was in here. All right. When you come in here on Monday of next week, I'm going to literally say, okay, here's your first program. Okay, and I'm going to be I was going to say prick, but I'm not supposed to talk like that. But I am going to be one of those. I'm going to say, you've got an hour to finish it. Okay? And then after that hour, and I don't even care if you want to work with the person next to you, as long as you both key it in. It's okay. But then after that hour, between that and, between 10 and 11, you'll do that and you'll take a break. And at 11, I'm going to write it right in front of you. All right? And if you like yours better, cool. All right? If you like mine better, that's fine too. But then we're going to fix a few things. Like I said, we're going to create what's called a decimal formatter. So when this prints, and if you had an answer like 123.45678, it'll put a $sign, and it'll be $123.46. We'll do it to 2 decimal places. And I'll show you a couple different ways of doing that. What Java has done recently is they've started to adopt some of the stuff that C uses, not C#, but C. All right? And that's all I had. So if you get a chance, take a look at what was in Chapter 2. See if it makes sense to you. All right? If you have any questions, come back with those on Monday. And I'm going to put this out on the system, so don't worry about it. But really, for Chapter 2, for Chapter 1, which we finished already, there's nothing. No homework. For Chapter 2, I actually want you to turn in the Payroll 1, the Payroll 2, A, and the Payroll 2B, even if you didn't call them that, that's fine. All right, and then whatever we do, the class one that we'll do next time, that's going to be what you're going to turn in for Chapter 2. All right, then on Wednesday of next week, all right, so a week from today, we're already going into Chapter 3. You may think, geez, he's really ramming this stuff down our throats. All right, I'd like to get the easy stuff done now. All right, I've yet to come across a textbook where they do the hard stuff first and it gets a lot easier as you get more into the book. All right, it's like a movie with all the action at the beginning and then it's really boring at the end. All right, it probably wouldn't fly very well.
Like the Matrix Reloaded.
Somebody said like the Matrix, okay. Yeah.
Reloaded.
For turning these in, do you want the file zipped?
The question was, when we turn these in, what do you want basically to do? What I'd like you to do is literally grab that whole folder, right mouse click on it, choose copy, and copy it over to your H drive. And in your H drive, have a folder in there that you call 152, 143, or Java, or something like that, and just put it in there. All right? Yeah, you can put a completed folder in there too if you want. No matter how many times I say it, some people do it and some don't anyway.
You said we have till Monday to do this?
Well, no, you'll have more than that. What I'm saying is, hopefully you've got these 3 all done already. All right? And if you do have questions or if something didn't work, raise your hand. I'll work with you or John will work with you. Maybe we can get Mike to have an appearance before he starts. But this is, again, what we'll do on Monday. I might take one out of the book. I might not. I don't know. All right? Any other questions? And as far as when that'll be due, probably like a week from next Tuesday. So you'll have plenty of time to finish it if you need that time. But I'm not going to give you any more class time to work on it, is what I'm saying.
Right.
All right? All right. Well, if there are no other questions, it's a little early, but I'm done. You didn't hear tomorrow that guy, now he's a mind guy, but they used to call him a magician. He's going to be here tomorrow, and there's free lunch. Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Do you know anything about the
About?
mentalist?
Oh, the question was, do I know anything about the mentalist? I know he's been here for several years. He's been here off and on for 20 years. And he's good. The one time I watched him, the funniest part was he brought about 8 people up. And first he said, when you wake up, you're naked. And so there were all people doing this and stuff, and you could tell who was hypnotized, who was faking it. And then he put him back asleep again. He said, now when you wake up, the audience is naked. And there was one guy fixated on a woman in the front row. She was so embarrassed, she screamed and went running out of there. So he's pretty good.
That's nice. That's nice.
And I don't know what the lunch is. But this guy goes all over the Midwest. My daughter went to school in Iowa, and she saw him twice while she was there.
But does he say it's a trick, or does he say?
Like I said, when I saw him, he was advertised as hypnotist. Now he's advertised basically as illusionist / memory guy. So I don't know what he says.
Okay, as long as he's not saying he has supernatural.
No, I don't think so. He seemed real down to earth. He seemed like a really nice guy when when I saw him. It was about 5 years ago, but he seemed like a real nice guy. It could be. Very well could be Raps.
Is it that yours isn't doing math on the panes either in the windows, or is it that yours isn't doing math on the window panes either? Never mind. I'll look at it.
No, it's
I'm like, oh my God.
Anybody? No one said anything, so I take for granted nobody had any trouble logging in today. Skylar, you said yours was fine now, right? So cool. Yeah, just keep away from the evil machine, and you should be fine, right? There you go.